Yeah, we've met. I think that was the same guy. It's up for discussion.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and call meeting to order. Roll call. Melissa. Here. Jill. Here. Michelle's here. Ben.
Here.
Floyd.
Here.
We have Wendy Manson down there. Julie looking for our attorney. Mark Thomas. Tom. Sorry. We got Mark, Justin, and Sean down there as well. We'll stand for the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Open forum request collected. We do have one open forum from Shelley Hayes.
Yes.
Right? Do we want to move that up or leave it at number 12?
I think we can move it up.
We can move it up.
I mean, unless you want to.
Unless you want to hang here all night.
No.
Okay. We will go ahead and move it then to right under the consent agenda. Right?
So before the sheriff.
Before the sheriff's report, yeah. And we need an approval of the agenda then.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the adjustment of the open forum to right before the sheriff's report.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Consent agenda. Sean, on the Northern Light contract, that is, we don't have the Neaton Brothers. That would be Wendy, actually. Neaton Brothers bill, final bill isn't in here yet, is it? No. Okay.
No.
Okay. Any questions here?
I have none.
Is there an approval?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second? I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. And we will have Shelley. You want to come on up? What you need to do then is just state your name and address.
My name is Shelley Hayes, 720 Brooks Circle West in Montrose. My concern is a series of different incidents that are happening in our neighborhood. Most of the time, law enforcement's been involved. We are looking to have eliminating foot traffic between our townhomes in Brook Circle and the trailer park, which is the emergency exit, some type of a different fence to eliminate foot traffic back and forth.
What is your suggestion? Because it is, I know what you're gonna say, but that is the emergency exit, so we need to have that fence in there.
What about, could there be something else that would still be accessible? It's locked by a chain, which was brought to my attention today, that was checked by a city employee today. So it is locked. Could there be some sort of other type of door on there to eliminate people? So it can still be used and wide enough to enter with a vehicle and not have foot traffic through, since there will be another, hopefully, path on 25 soon.
That's in another year and a half.
But I'm going to be attending a meeting on the 19th at 2 p.m. to bring some of these other things into attention of why we are concerned. And so that is what I'm bringing to today.
The other meeting on
The
the...
fence thing.
She's going to cover our staff meeting.
Oh, okay.
You said you don't want the traffic walking on your property?
Well, it's the foot traffic, just going
Yeah,
from
that's-
Rockbrook to the trailer park, or the trailer park to
And things
Rockbrook.
that have been happening in our neighborhood.
And can you clarify?
Yeah.
The things that are happening?
Are you able to give us some background? 'Cause I'm
Background, things that have been happening.
Yes.
what's
Okay.
going on, things that are happening, severity?
The first thing, personally, our front door was busted with a rock when we first moved in, okay? That is nearly 6 years ago. Within the last year, a stranger entered our neighbor's house. I don't have the exact house number.
Okay.
I will have for this next meeting.
Okay,
They came up from their lower level. He was in there, left, okay? That was directly across the street from us. The police came to our house at 11 p.m. to see if we were expecting anybody or if anybody had been at our residence. Within just the last several months, a sliding glass door was broken several houses down from us on our same street. Again, they didn't know what happened there.
Was that the one that was on social media?
I'm not positive about that.
Where they thought maybe it was a rock from their mower? Okay.
There's another home owner that I spoke to today, and they, on May 18th, roughly around $2,500 of tools of his, work tools, were stolen out of his vehicle. Jose, which is here tonight as well, had an instance on August 12th, I believe, where there was a girl in his house and he was already gone for work and he has 4 children. This is becoming a concern for us that have kids and our taxpayers in this town. Our incident happened on August 28th with a gentleman that lives in the townhome. And because of extensive things I've been told from the Wright County Sheriff's Department, he has a history of drugs. He is mentioned in the theft report, and it's a concern to all of us that have kids in this neighborhood. This is only the things I know. I have a neighbor that works nights, and he comes home at 1 a.m. and he says he sees lots of crazy things going on. There's lots of foot traffic back and forth. I was told tonight that there are people that live in the trailer park that are coming to the bus stop, that there's lots of things that some of the kids in our neighborhood don't want to be at the bus stop anymore. Okay, so I tried to gather as much as I could in the last couple weeks, and as a concerned resident and parent, and somebody that's concerned about property values and the way things are going around there, I'm concerned. And something needs to be changed.
So you are suggesting then a fence of some sort to eliminate?
Because right now it's just that gate. There's
Right.
wood on each side
Mhm.
and then the gate.
Yep, I was just over today. Yep. But, so how do you think, so if it's coming from your townhomes, what is
It's
it?
both. I mean, there are people that travel from there that go to there, It's both, I don't know. I mean,
So even if there was a fence?
there's
that
actual,
would
there's been several car robberies as well. Another neighbor behind me said he's found wallets and purses from neighbors' vehicles. I mean, we don't know where that comes from, but we see the foot traffic.
What I think she's trying to say,
Sorry, you have to state your name and address too.
Jose Martinez, I live at 725 Brook
Okay.
Circle. So what Shelley was saying was, my house was the house that actually some girl ended up wandering into, and my daughter ended up finding her in her closet. So there was this girl, and by girl I mean woman, that was made her way into my home and into my daughter's closet and ended up passing out there. And I took off for work the next morning, of course thinking everything was fine, there isn't an issue. And I get a phone call from my daughter scared, about there's somebody in my closet, I don't know what to do. So we of course called the sheriff's department, and thankfully I was close enough to home where I could make it back quick enough. So as far as the gate or fence that I think Shelley's referring to is, you have a cattle gate there now, right? And you need access to that park through that gate. Well, you don't need foot traffic through there, you just need it wide enough for a vehicle or for an escape route. Is that right? So instead of there being a cattle gate with a walk path next to it, why not just have one complete gate, chain link, 6 feet tall, that's locked as it is now? I mean, is that a lot? A little? Is that out of the budget or?
It's not in the budget, because
Okay.
a chain link fence, roughly is gonna be $12,000 to $15,000.
For a gate?
Well, you're talking, you asked for the fence,
For,
just,
there's a wooden fence on one side and a wooden fence on the other side of that opening
so then just.
currently. So right now, there's probably 20 feet, let's just say.
Okay.
A fence, you could probably put a swinging fence in there. I don't think that it's gonna cost 15 grand. So,
Will that effectively keep people out, or will people
They'll
just start
have-
climbing the
They'll just
fence?
have to fence.
You know what I mean?
well, they're walking through the city property, right? So, and sometimes, how many times do they cut through my yard after they come through the city property? Walk through my yard, walk in my backyard, walk in my front yard, walk in my house, And something that Shelley didn't know was that earlier this year, I had a ladder and some other miscellaneous was taken on the back of my truck. So, where it's coming from, can I tell you exactly? I can't tell you exactly.
And you
So,
make police reports and all this, correct?
it's all documented. I call the sheriff's, the director of the sheriff's department. That's right.
One question I got, you said your daughter found a girl in her house.
Yeah,
Yeah. How did she get in there?
through the patio door on top.
You don't lock that?
Well, out of the 3 years that I lived in Montrose, other than my ladder being stolen, I've never had any other issues with anything or anyone coming into my house or taking any of my personal property. I figured that being out here, it was safe enough as to where, maybe I don't have to lock this door. But to answer your question directly, no, it wasn't locked that night.
You lock it now?
Of course, it's locked now. Every window's locked. It's double checked before I go to bed and after I get up in the morning. So my routine has changed a little bit now because of this,
So what happened to the girl? Did she leave before Wright County got there?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. She
We have no idea who it was.
The Wright
Okay.
County Sheriff's Department got there. Yeah, so, and then Deputy Nick he's investigating it right now, so trying to come up with solutions.
How recent was that?
That was in the last 30 days.
It was
Mid-August?
August 12th, because the deputy came to our door, because I was up getting ready for work, and it was approximately 5:30 a.m. when that happened. He was at our door.
So you're gonna be currently going to just staffing, correct? So, are you guys okay with them discussing it at staff level and bringing it back to us?
For sure.
Yeah.
Good?
I am.
Is that okay with you guys for now?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. Raycon Sheriff's Department. Not here. Council meeting.
No, it's terrible. I tried to go. I'm just saying.
We'll set the doors open on the weekends because they're never.
Tuesday the 19th.
Who wants to start?
I can start. Okay, so since the last council meeting, I have attended a couple of meetings at Grace Place, going over the Building Healthier Communities, we'll call it task force, because there's not really a better term for it, where several community members, and not necessarily community members, are trying to come up with a solution to ensure that everybody within the community has the access and resources to being healthy, doctor's appointments, and ensuring that they can have means of transportation to get there, ensuring that there's access to healthy food, not only access to it, but affordability of it. And so we're working really closely with the Wright County Public Health, trying to come up with solutions. There's several grants out there that they're excited about and trying to move forward with. So as that continues to evolve, we'll certainly continue to update on that, but that's been a fun recent project for that.
How's the crowd been going?
Really good. This last session is done. There's another session that starts next week maybe. So it's a crock pot cooking class. It's a 6-week session. They're expected to, those in attendance are expected to commit to 6 weeks every Thursday, I think, where a chef comes in, goes over how to cook. Each participant gets a crock pot along with all of the ingredients to prepare a meal. So it's basically providing them resources and the ability to know how to cook healthy meals for their families. That was through a grant that was received through this Healthy Community Initiative. So there will be, I think, 4 more classes offered until February, March, April, somewhere in there. Exact dates are to be determined. But there is a wait list a mile long for people to get into that. So that's good to know. That the need is out there and there's willing participants. I attended budget session, a town hall meeting, a couple city meetings, some staff meetings, personnel, park and rec, EDA, Montrose Days. Montrose Days, we recapped the event, obviously, the weekend event, along with the town hall meeting that we held. I think we were there the longest we've ever been there, just at right around 2 hours. So lots of discussion took place, but they're always looking for volunteers. So if anybody in the audience is looking to participate, certainly feel free to step up. It's a fun event that can't occur successfully without volunteers. That's about it.
Attended EDA meeting, fire department, council meeting, Beyond the Yellow Ribbon, town hall discussion, Montrose Day celebration itself, and then also the meeting and the budget meeting, and that's what I got.
Council meetings, the EDA meeting, workshop, the town hall, planning and zoning, and special meetings, and that's it.
Let's see, a few different events at Montrose Days. The budget meeting, town meeting. And then the EDA meeting for this. I think that is it. We're on the Yellow Ribbon meeting too. I did council meetings, budget meetings, multiple staff meetings, Park and Rec. That's up and, yeah. That's it. On to Wendy.
Actually, Tammy Amdahl from Northland Securities is here.
Hi, Tammy. Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. I'm Tammy Umdahl with Northland Securities. Northland Securities has worked with your staff assisting with the sale of the general obligation bonds. You have a resolution in your packet this evening. I'm just going to make a few comments on it, and then I can answer any questions Mayor, you or members of the council may have. So the proposed bond issuance is to finance street reconstruction improvements. You may recall earlier this year in August, you approved the street reconstruction plan that allowed for the issuance of these bonds. And the bonds are supported by property tax levies. The par amount of the bonds is for $366,000. They were privately placed, or the purchaser is Citizen State Bank in town. So we worked with them on the placement of the bonds. The interest rate on the bonds is 2.5%. It's payable over 7 years. And the average annual payment with interest is approximately $60,000, or a little bit more than that. And the bonds will settle on October 10th, is when the city will have the bond sale proceeds for your project. Other than that, Mayor, council members, I would be happy to answer any questions, and then following discussion, there is a resolution for your consideration to award the bonds and the sale to Citizen State Bank.
And along with the resolution, there's also, it's called a post-issuance compliance policy and procedure that we need to pass. So when you do the resolution, you can also include the approval of that policy. That is basically general housekeeping for tax purposes. It was presented by our bond counsel.
Does anybody have any questions?
I'll make a motion to accept resolution number 2017-19.
I will second that. You have to add in that page 39.
Approval of post-issuance compliance policies and procedures.
And the approval of the post-insurance compliance policies and procedures.
I will still second that. All right, Melissa. Aye. Jill. Aye. I'll vote aye. Lloyd.
Aye.
Ben.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for coming in. Fire department.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'd like to start off with something that's not on the agenda. Just to bring it to light, today marks the 16th year anniversary of September 11th, 2001 attacks that happened in at the Pentagon and in the World Trade Center. Today from 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. firefighters stood diligently at the corner of Buffalo Avenue South and US Highway 12 at Reds. I'd like to first of all thank all the citizens who stopped by, honked their horns, waved, stopped by and gave us food, treats, water, pop, everything like that. It's greatly appreciated, and sometimes we forget that the citizens do truly back us in what we do up here. So 16 years, it's a long time ago. This is now written in history books that kids are learning in school. But it's always important to never forget that day. Always remember the first responders that died saving people and all of the military personnel who have died since on the fight for terrorism and stuff. So I just wanted to bring that up and make mention of it today just because it is the anniversary of it. So moving on, my activity report, which is included in the packet. If there's any questions, I can answer that. Fairly straightforward though. And then I have two action items. The first one being the resignation of firefighter Scott Johnson effective August 31st, 2017. He served for 6 years and 3 months. He recently bought property over in the Mayor area near Watertown area, and they built a house out there. He has since also joined Watertown Fire from here, so we would need a motion to accept his resignation.
Make a motion to accept the resignation of Scott Johnson.
I'll second. Lloyd? Ben?
Aye.
Melissa? Aye. Jill? Aye. I'll vote aye, motion passes 5-0.
Next one is the resignation of firefighter Jeff Daniels effective September 5th, 2017. Jeff served with us for 10 years, was a very valuable member to our department, and he will be greatly missed as well. So.
Make a motion to accept the resignation of Jeff Daniels.
I'll second that.
Melissa? Aye. Lloyd?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
I'll vote aye. Jill? Aye. Motion passes 5-0.
And I know I have one more person that's tentatively going to be resigning October 1st, who's also moving out of the area, unfortunately. So that puts us at the next item on the agenda, which is hiring. We do have an open hiring process with Montrose Fire Department, so we'll accept applications year-round. Anybody who's interested in joining, I would encourage them to fill out a city application and submit it to City Hall. We're especially and always looking for daytime availability for firefighters. However, that's very difficult for us to get around here, unfortunately. But right now, we're kind of going to start working on getting our numbers up just because of the attrition that's happened here recently, which has nothing to really do specifically with what's going on or anything like that. It's just people are improving or finding out it's too much for them because the time constraints and everything are getting more and more for the fire department and stuff. And we've had people moving out to where they've built homes or bigger homes or closer to the metro or up north for retirement and things like that. So just a friendly reminder to all the citizens and everybody that if you're interested in serving your community, we're accepting applications and we would gladly like to take a look at the applications and stuff. So with that, unless there's any questions, that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Earl?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. You should have the minutes from our last park meeting. Lots of things coming up. I won't go through all of them, because you'll see them all in the upcoming newsletter. The most current one coming up, I will mention, which is October 7th, Park in the Park. That'll be a big deal, because it won't just be jobs. There's going to be a lot of crafters and businesses and that sort of thing. It's going to be a pretty big deal, so it's something you don't want to miss. The other thing that we have for you this evening is we have a new commission applicant, Abigail Myers, who was at the last meeting, visited with. She is very well qualified. She works for the city of Rutland currently. And we would love to have your approval this evening to add her as a commission.
I'll make a motion to appoint Abigail Myers to the Park and Rec Commission.
I'll second.
Ooh, look at that.
Lloyd?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
I'll vote aye. Jill?
Aye.
Melissa? Aye. Motion passes 5-0.
Any other questions?
The only thing on your minutes, I just do want the council aware that there was a lot of discussion on the rules of civility discussion. We don't have that here tonight, but we did have it here at the last meeting. The commissions have been asked to sign a rules of civility. It is just a way to conduct yourself at meetings, be friendly, be kind, that kind of thing. And the question was had is where did it come from? Who approved it? All that kind of stuff, and that's been in place 10 years?
The form itself, I think, was just adopted not too long ago. The actual rules of civility that we have on that board's been around for, the code of conduct.
Yeah.
That's been around for a long time.
Yeah, and that's what was handed out, was the code of conduct.
Okay.
No. The code of conduct was something different. The rules of civility was something that was just handed out, that we would just have to sign.
Right, but I think she just copied what was on that board and handed it out. So everything that was on the board was just condensed down into a form handed to commissions, and the question was, is that come about. And that has been in place that's been around for years.
There was a person that was concerned with,
Right, that poster board has been around for
Right.
many years, and it used to be up at every meeting, just to
We just have a
ensure.
place to store it here, we don't have a place to store it anymore, so it was taken back to City Hall.
Right.
Right.
We can bring it back for meetings if we want, just bring it back.
Well, I think the concern was is because now we have the commission, the different commissions, receiving copies and signing it, just as a reminder to, conduct themselves professionally.
So, are there a few that haven't signed it yet? So the
No, they've all been
commissions haven't-
signed.
Oh.
Not all of the commissions have received it, correct?
Just Park and Rec has received it
So
right
it needs to go
now.
to some of the other commissions? and
It
send
needs to
out?
now go to planning and zoning, and
And can you ensure that it's on letterhead, like
Yes,
the official
please.
city of
I would
Montrose
like to sign.
document?
with a line for signature and date.
I'll see if I can find it. I guess it must be on Maggie's computer.
Yeah, because she redid it, so. That's it. Thank you. Thank you. Is that any questions?
Just looked like you had a question, sorry.
Oh, okay. Mark? Planning and zoning?
Yep. Honorable Mayor, Council, this item's coming before you, I'm sorry, you get the minutes. Do you do anything with those minutes?
Just if we have questions. Anybody got any
Any
questions?
questions on the minutes?
No.
Okay. So, Honorable Mayor, Council, the item coming before you tonight is a request for a variance for the property located at 111 Buffalo Avenue South. The variance would allow reduced setbacks and alterations to the existing non-conforming structure that's currently located on that property. The property itself is zoned RB Residential Business District, and it's approximately 0.21 acres in size. So the applicant approached the city about wanting to move that existing building away from the property lines on both the north property line, or First Street South, as well as Buffalo Avenue South, and essentially move the building from its current location to the south and to the west to move it away from both of those roads. In doing that, in moving the building away, they would not be able to bring the building into full compliance with all applicable setbacks, but they would be making what would be considered a vast improvement from its current position, where it actually encroaches into the city's right-of-way in one of the locations. In order to move the building in that direction, they would be taking down the smaller existing accessory structure that's located to the west of the main building on that property. That's just on the First Street South side. And they then would like to add an addition onto the southwest corner of the building, because they'd also be removing a portion of the south portion of the building in somewhat of a reconfiguration of that building. So the building itself is considered a non-conforming building at this point. The city has a requirement relating to non-conforming buildings, that the buildings, or moving of non-conforming buildings, and the city would have to consider that the applicant would be removing a portion of the building and then adding back on a small addition to the building, such that the net exchange in square footage would allow the building to be the same size, or the resulting building would be the same size. And so with that, there would be no change in the actual exterior or interior size of the building, but there would be a change to the exterior configuration of the building. Altercations to a non-conforming building are permitted as long as that size is not expanded beyond, so the square footage of the building doesn't go up, and the occupancy or capacity of the building and or parking demand is not increased, and the alteration does not increase the non-conformity of the building. So in this particular case, the applicant's proposing to increase the setbacks, not decrease. bring it more into compliance, and so those criteria would appear to be met by the applicant. Essentially, outside of that, there's two other setback issues with the building. One is there's a provision in the ordinance which requires that a front yard setback or a front yard of a building be located no closer than the setback of principal building on an abutting property, or 15 feet, whichever is greater. In this particular case, they're proposing to increase the setback, the main front yard setback from 0 feet to 10.7, but they're not able to get all the way to 15. So the city would have to grant a variance to allow them to have a front yard setback at 10.7 versus 15 as required. And then secondly, as it relates to setbacks, the current setbacks that they have, the setback along Buffalo Avenue and First Street right now is 0 feet. They would be proposing, like I had mentioned, to increase the setback along Buffalo Avenue from 0 to 10.7, and then along First Street from 0 to 5.1. The rear setback would be proposed to be essentially 9.8 feet along the back. None of those meet the minimum requirements of the city, so we'd be granting a variance from all sides of that building to allow it to be moved, but all of the setbacks would be increased from where they are now. There was discussion at the Planning Commission meeting about the use of the building and what would be intended if it were to be moved. The applicant noted that they would continue to use the building for storage, for their own storage as they're using it now, but they would be making significant improvements to the building, which would include the renovation of the building, new windows, doors, and roof, as well as painting and new siding would all be a part of the proposed renovation of that building. They'd also be putting in a more distinguishable driveway into the front of the building off of First Street, coming into the site. So with that, they'd also be taking down that existing accessory building and again, their intent is to clean up what they think will help clean up that site and then improve the aesthetics of that building. In doing that, they're also talking about obviously going to make vast improvements to the inside of that building, which right now has a lot of different issues associated with just its age and how it's been upkept. Planning Commission did have a public hearing on this matter. There were no comments that were made outside of the Planning Commission. They ultimately recommended approval to the City Council to grant the requested variances for the application. And I tried to lay out in the exhibit that was included in the packet, which would also be an exhibit to the resolution, the proposed improvements, which have the site plan, which has that site plan. You can see in that exhibit there is the property line. You can see the existing building in pink, the proposed building being relocated in orange, and then the proposed addition in blue on that plan. And so hopefully that makes some sense out of what it is that the applicant's proposing and then just where that building would sit on the property. And then there's a corresponding resolution with the conditions also included in that, in the packet. And the conditions that were included do talk about, as recommended by the Planning Commission, that the exterior improvements that were addressed by the applicant would be made, they'd be required as a part of the variance consideration by the city. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. I don't see the applicants here tonight, but.
Any questions? Concerns?
No, I think it'll be an improvement. So I make a motion to go ahead with resolution number 2017-20.
I'll second that. Melissa? Aye. Jill? Aye. Ben?
Aye.
Lloyd?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye. Motion passes 5-0. Personnel minutes.
Sure. So Personnel Committee met on September 5th. Discussion took place regarding the city clerk treasurer position. At that time, there was 12 applications that had been received in, and we did not receive any more between then and today. Today, we went over those applications as a personnel committee and graded them according to their qualifications using the point system. Then also determined at that time that we were going to come up with some interview questions, and then we discussed that again today. Then there was discussion regarding the fire chief position and the fact that there was 2 applications received. Normally, I think it would have gone to personnel committee itself to go over those applications, but given my standing with the fire department, it was determined that Ben and Michelle would be better suited to interview those individuals. So there was no bias or external knowledge that I may have. And then we adjourned.
Any questions? Okay. Attorney. Oh,
Thank you, Mayor, council members. In your packets, you'll see resolution number 2017-18. As many of you are aware, we've been trying to clean up and finalize some annexation issues that have been outstanding between Montrose and a couple of the surrounding townships, one of those being the town of Woodland. The issue is that we currently have an orderly annexation in place, which generally would allow us to bypass the approval process and simply annex the property. However, we've been told by an administrative law judge that annexation agreement that was passed by the city in 2004 is no longer compliant with the requirements under Minnesota state law. So that being said, we need to amend that agreement. And the amendment, if you look at the back, when it gets into the whereas, the amendment essentially releases the citizen that's hoping to annex into the city. It releases their obligation to pay the $250 per acre, and instead places that burden on the city, which is required by state law. And so it's just a matter of cleaning up that agreement. We do have a couple of separate resolutions that you guys have passed for individual properties, and we are still processing those. But this will then allow the orderly annexation to be in place with the state so that these processes can go on a lot quicker if there is a citizen that wishes to annex into the property, or in one instance we have some city property that's owned by the city but needs to be, borders just need to be shifted so we can have that within the city. So, with that, if you guys have any questions about the resolution or the amendments that will be made to the resolution, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, I would just ask that you approve the resolution.
any questions? Motion?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2017-18, approving the orderly annexation agreement between the city of Montrose and Woodland Township.
Second that motion.
Jill?
Aye.
Lloyd?
Aye.
Melissa? Aye. Ben?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye, motion passes 5-0. Wendy?
Just a quick update. I went to the WCAT meeting on Tuesday, the 15th of August. The update from the chair on Trailblazer was that there was still some continuing negotiations. They made a motion to rescind the letter of withdrawal from Trailblazer. Most of the items that they felt were not right have been resolved, and so at this time WCAT will remain a member of the Trailblazer Joint Powers Agreement. The Trailblazers 2018 operating budget, which will be going out, I think their year is coming out like September, October now. They're estimating it, or their estimate at that time was $5.3 million, and that would be for 29 buses in service, of which 14 would be in Buffalo. Right now, there's 26 buses in service with 12 of them in Buffalo. This is, of course, was an estimate at that time. It depended on the funding from the state of Minnesota once all of that was released. And then I put the ridership report in there from the second quarter, April through June. That's it, unless you have any questions.
There is no old business, no new business. Wendy?
So we met in August, on August 28th, and went over the items for our proposed budget and levy. As you know, we have to have this submitted to the county for the proposed levy by September 30th. And as a rule, you usually try to estimate what you're going to spend for the year. You have then until December to come up with your actual budget. You cannot increase your budget once you go into the preliminary levy. You cannot increase it. You can always decrease it. So you try to make sure that you keep it, that's high enough so that you know you're going to be able to maintain any of the expenditures. As I said, you can always decrease it once the year goes on and you find out, what you really have spent for the past years or what really needs to be done in the upcoming year. In the packets, I put in just a brief summary. This is the preliminary levy with where we have it at. I believe it's about $100,000 higher than last year. That's a 2.5% tax rate increase for 2018. There's a couple items that we listed that actually will be affecting this levy. Most of them were defined in the 5-year capital improvement plan that was approved about a year ago or so, I believe, from the council. One of the big increases is our police protection. We went from 8 hours to 10 hours, which should help, hopefully. We increased the legal services a little bit because there will be union negotiations this next year. Election equipment, the state of Minnesota is asking that we upgrade our election equipment. We were hoping to get grant money for it. They've come out with some minimal grant money. So we budgeted $2,000 last year. We're budgeting about $5,000 this year, and hoping with the grant that will be close to what they're expecting. We're waiting for the county to decide how they're going to handle it. They may, be able to help us out some. Public Works, there again, this is part of the capital improvement plan. Public Works is going to start replacing some of their pickups that are getting pretty old now and a lot of miles. We're looking at getting a new plow truck and doing a municipal lease with that, a city hall backup generator, the solar lights along Highway 12. So these are all just items that will be affecting this. The street reconstruction, Montrose Meadow street reconstruction bond that you just passed previously. And then to start with the Highway 12 project to purchase the right-of-way, make the right-of-way acquisitions and the engineering costs to get that started. So those are the few items. The comparison is in there for from 2017 to 2018, which shows the about $100,000 increase. The net tax capacity, of course, that's not out yet, which is what affects your tax rate. We made an estimate. Last year, our tax capacity was $1,856,872. So we estimated this year to be about $1,950,000. There's a page, if you keep going just to the next page, there's a page in there that will show how it would affect your taxes if your home. So you have your assessed value of your home, and then you have the taxable market value of your home. I have 125,000, 150,000, 200,000, and 250,000, which is pretty high. I don't think there's many homes in town that are the taxable market value of 250, but they generally fall probably between 125 and 150. You can see the increase with the $100,000 difference. The increase, say $125,000 would be $32 for the year. $150,000 would be $40 for the year. So with that, I also have the proposed levy in there. So I would need a motion. If there's any questions, you may have any questions. Otherwise, you would just need a motion to approve the proposed levy.
Is there any discussion? there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed levy certification.
I'll second. Lloyd? I'll vote aye. Ben?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
And Joan? Aye. Motion passes 5-0.
The other item is kind of a housekeeping item. This we bring forward every year. This is a resolution number 2017-17. It replaces the lost assessments due to bankruptcy. So it's so that we keep the levy for the street, for the bond that we're making, the 2010A bond payment that we make. The levy remains at $200,000 rather than going down each year. It should have decreased, but because of our lost assessments, we've kept it at $200,000. So this is just that resolution to keep it at the $200,000.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2017-17, a resolution authorizing levy to replace lost assessments due to bankruptcy.
I'll second.
Ben?
Aye.
Lloyd? I'll vote aye. Jill?
Aye.
Melissa? Aye. Motion passes 5-0.
That's all I have.
April? April Hedges?
June 4671 Carter 12.
So I want to first thank everybody for coming out and seeing what we've been going through. I really kind of want this to be the last meeting I have to come and talk to anybody here. I would like to, just to start out with, we would like to talk about cleaning the windows and the Dutch fence of the house from June's wonderful dust bowl. And I'd also like to talk about just the regional park in general and see what we can come up with to make this work a little bit smoother in the future. There's really nobody watching anybody here. And the way the park sits right now, I certainly wouldn't want to mow it or walk across it. It's bad. So who actually is in charge of this project?
Sean? Justin? Any input?
This is a big project.
It is.
You guys are the council, and I want to know who's in charge of this project. Who is making the decisions for it?
The grand decisions, the day-to-day decisions, the small ones, the big ones.
Well, they're kind of, yeah, any and all.
So, I mean, the small day-to-day stuff to keep things going and rolling would, I believe, would go to Sean and to Justin. If there's big decisions that need to be made, then that would come to the city council.
What would you consider a big decision?
I don't know.
I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
No, I mean, I don't.
I'm not trying to argue with you guys at all. I just, the way things are going about, you know, the effect that you have had on my 7-year-old with this cart is outstanding. And I'm pissed. I'm really pissed about it. We have asked for communication. Give me some communication when the big trucks are going to be coming in. And once again, this weekend, there they are, bright and early, Saturday morning.
And nobody knew.
Nobody knew.
Nobody knew why or...
Justin and Sean didn't even know, because believe me, I contacted them to find out why we weren't informed once again. that they're coming in. Ruined my kid's entire day, he won't go outside. I mean, really, the only people that have met him has been Melissa, Michelle, and Sean. You know, you guys have all been out to the house. He won't come outside. This has ruined an entire kid's summer. And now he has anxiety, and we're dealing with other issues and tics. I just need to know when the big trucks are coming in. And I can't even get that kind of communication.
Do we know where that disconnect came from on why the trucks were there on Saturday? Did we ever find a resolution to that? I realize it's only Monday, but.
I don't have an answer other than Neaton Brothers, I was told multiple times that they need to notify us when they're going to be out there because they were made aware of the situation. And I spoke to them and told them that there were some very unhappy people about it. They didn't really give me a real good answer, to be honest with you.
Well, let's talk about Eaton Brothers and the job they've done out at the park. Because Sean's explanation at Park and Rec was kind of fluffy, Sean. Come on out, see the rocks, the amazing field of rocks. They were paid to, well, they haven't been paid yet, but they were told to pick them. Sean and I had a conversation about it. They said they were bringing in a machine to pick the rocks. It was going to have them placed over there. What we witnessed was 6 guys for about a half an hour picking rocks by hand. And that's it. It wasn't even a bucket load for the skid loader bucket. But why are we hiring Eaton when, Justin, when I talked to him on Saturday about them coming up again out of the blue, he had mentioned that he had had issues with them before. It didn't surprise him that this happened. You know, and we would be talking to Neatons about this. I asked Justin, maybe I should talk to Neatons, you know, because I'm just, it's affecting us too much. This park shouldn't affect us. It should go in really nicely. It's taking a lot of things away from us. You know, our ability to enjoy the summer outside in our own yard. We now lost the ability to have brush fires in our backyard because we lost our backyard, and the fence that is put up is wood for a safety issue, so we can't burn back there anymore. You know, we've lost the wildlife that comes into our yard, the deer. I'm sure the turkeys won't be in, the pheasants. The squirrels are gone now, which might sound just stupid to you guys, but we enjoy those things. This has changed our entire home. So could you just come up with a better plan? Could you put someone in charge of it, and not just one person, but several people who are watching Justin and Sean with this park? Because it seems like every time you turn around, it's something else has happened. The Army came in. The Army did not complete one thing that they were supposed to complete, did they, Justin? I'm just asking.
I'm not going to even answer that question.
Well, we were told it would be 1 month of torture, and we're over 3 months in. And I hope we're down to the end of it now, but the rocks still need to be picked out of there, or you're not going to be able to play ball out there. They're not going to be able to mow. And maybe when you're planning this park, you should talk to the people that have to take care of it. Like your city guys that are going to be mowing it, because that hill on the back side, on the west side of the property, from the fence down to the road, is so much of an incline that the mower can't stay on it. They slide down, which is also where our property was dug into, so now it has to be filled in. And I'm going to guess that for several years, we're going to have washout by that fence, just washing down that hill. So can we just take care of some of these issues and make sure everybody's got a plan and you're all watching it, because this is a huge park and it's going to be a huge drain to the city.
Justin, where are we at with Neaton Brothers and the rock issue? Were you aware of issues prior to this?
they just finished on Saturday, so I went out there today to look things over. There's definitely spots where there's rocks, some hand picking could be done. I don't know what the residents saw there out there. One thing I do know, they did more than just hand picking rock with a few guys for a half hour. They used machines, yep. And
They used the machine on the soccer hockey field and that was it.
on the baseball and softball field, you mean?
No, the soccer and hockey field.
Yeah. Well, I think I'll need to review it with Sean out there because I need to determine exactly which size rocks need to be picked. I mean, there's definitely some rocks out there. It's a question of exactly what size needs to be picked. For the most part, I thought it looked pretty good, to be honest with you, when you look at how many rocks were out there originally.
You went out there today?
I was out there today. I mean, there's worse areas to the west of the road that are more rough. There's some issues over there. Baseball and softball field, there is some rocks that can be picked out there. I think you can spend a little time out there and get it in a good condition. I think overall it's pretty good. There is some improvement to be made out there, I think. The area, like I said, to the west is definitely rougher. The topsoil really wasn't put on. That's kind of more temporary in some of the areas where the tennis court areas are. Because that's going to be all disturbed anyway when the tennis courts get built. So sort of in that area, I don't think we're giving it to the level of doneness as we are the baseball and softball field, just because it's going to get tore up anyway. So not tore up, but when the tennis courts go in, most of that area will get disturbed. So, but there's definitely some rock picking that needs to get done out there. But they did pick a lot of rocks, lots of rocks.
Where are they?
They left them they've actually put them in low areas, they buried them on site in low areas. And then there's a pile, I saw there's a pile on the stockpile there too. There's a pile on the stockpile there.
That half a bucket would.
Yeah, I don't know, there wasn't much there. But
I'm sorry, I can't listen to Justin blow fluff about this because there are so many rocks out there, you could build a castle with them. I'm going out and see.
We'll get it taken care of with Public Works, okay? I mean, that's all I can say.
Okay, my question is though, I was out there,
And by that I mean, I'll review it with them, not saying that they'll take care of it, I'm saying that I'll review it with them.
I was out there Monday, Tuesday school. And the rocks that were out there were ridiculous. But you've been out there today, so things obviously can change. So what are we paying to have this done, and how many times are they gonna come out here and do this?
Well, the quote was approved by council, that's what we're doing.
Do you know offhand, because I don't remember.
I think it was about $20,000.
$20,000.
I think that included the erosion control and stuff.
Okay. But how many times are they coming out here to do this?
Well, they were gonna finish originally Friday and Saturday, so they were gonna be out
Okay,
there
right.
once, and then they got rained out on Saturday, so they had to come back a week later to finish.
Okay. And were you aware then? Did you have a discussion that there were prior incidences? Prior problems with the meter?
Well, I would just say in general terms, I mean, it was nothing that would constitute, wasn't major issues, it wasn't anything that would constitute throwing out the bid. It was, they could improve on communication and something. I've had experiences. So. That was my reference date.
I think a lot of your rock issues are underneath all the straw that's out there.
Mm-hmm.
You can walk out there and not see a lot of it, I think.
Right.
At this point, today, I would think a lot of it's coming down.
And now some of the grass is
Yeah,
growing.
and I'm only seeing there's areas where you're not seeing straw, so that's one area I'm looking at.
You did straw pretty much whole.
It looks great from the road.
So then, did we look at it then before the straw and all that was down to see before we laid? I mean, I'm new to all of this, just like I'm sure most of us are.
No, they were specifically given instructions on what rocks need to be picked and what our expectations were. So, if there's issues, they'll come back and take care of them. I mean, I didn't have somebody out there the whole time they were. I guess I was trying to be cognizant of spending money as well and didn't have somebody out there inspecting the whole time that they were out there. pick the rock, because we can do the same afterwards. If there's rocks still out there, they can come back and pick them up.
They'll come back and pick them up?
If there's rocks out there that are to the level that we told them they need to pick, yes.
What did you tell them to pick?
Rocks that were, I think it was like 2 to 3 inches and bigger.
When I asked the guys what they were told to pick, they said ankle twisters.
Yeah, that's not true.
So, I don't know. There needs to be somebody watching this.
That probably wasn't you.
Group of people.
No,
You know.
that could have been their boss.
But look, can we just talk about the windows and the cleaning and, you know, this has cost us money now, and this shouldn't happen. I hope that going on from now, you guys form some kind of how things go and who checks with who on making decisions and follow up, because I don't believe all the time that Justin is telling you exactly what's going on, and he likes to just make it look good. Like the last council meeting when I asked him about the property line, he didn't honestly give an answer, and I asked everyone that came out, what, you know, did you understand? And nobody did. So
What are you thinking on for the windows and the deck?
I don't know, we weren't really given a choice on the fence and stuff like that. You guys just took the initiative. I honestly have a lot going on right now, so I haven't called windows and duct companies, get some estimates, whatever, but I do deserve to be able to see out my windows and to be breathing better in my home after all the dust. We are still getting stuff out in the furnace filter.
What would you like us to do? I mean,
We've done a lot
To-
so far for this part.
Any comments? Anyone?
Really, it's hard to decide anything unless we get some estimates.
So we should get,
But I'm gonna make a comment, and it's probably not gonna be a very good one, honestly. This is a big project, like you guys said, and you kind of knew what was coming.
No,
Not really. With all the work and everything that was going on, and the dirt and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know what you would expect us to do.
I'm not expecting you to clean the inside of the windows, but we've already cleaned the windows once this year. I would appreciate the outside being clean. You know? If I want to get really picky, we could go with all the vehicles that had to sit outside in the, you know, we have tons of cars. We could ask for things like that, but right now, I just want to be made to where we were before this started. We are the ones that are going to have to grow the grass and get the seed. And there's things that we've given up a lot. My kid has given up his summer and his sanity for the most part because of this part. And a lot of it has to do with communication, because when you tell a child that he's going to have a play date, and then the construction vehicles show up at 7 in the morning and he won't go outside the rest of the day. Now he's upset about the vehicles, plus his friends can't come over and play. You have no idea how much it affects us every day.
so I would say that the outside windows and the outside of the house be just clean, whatever it would take, and the duct work.
Did you have somebody in mind that you would be calling?
No idea.
I'm gonna be smart,
No.
but Zero Rent has a special going on right now.
It doesn't,
Yeah.
it just needs to be done.
Yeah, I haven't checked, we haven't looked at anything yet at all. We wanted to talk, find out for sure if it's something.
Yeah, I really-
Get some estimates.
What is the council think?
I understand where they're coming from. I know that if you start precedents, you're opening for a lot of other things. that's, moving forward. And I, did come out there, did see, and yes, you guys had a rough summer with this, putting it politely. And I just know that sometimes when you open some of these doors, there are other precedences for things. So we just need to make sure, we do the right thing, but we make sure that it is done in a manner that hopefully we don't put ourselves in a corner in the future.
I understand what you're saying. I think a lot of this a lot of the things that came up with this could have been avoided if there would have been better communication between a lot of people. We had no clue that, first of all, the fence, okay? We weren't ever looking to get a fence around our home. But when you make a hill so severe that it's a danger to my child now, who lives there, that's an issue. And I do believe Justin kind of knew about that issue before this whole thing went into play, because the first round of plans put a retaining wall in the back of our yard, which would be the west side. And when I said, if you put up that retaining wall, you're going to need to put a fence there because my kid will not understand not to step off of it, and that's right to the road. It was never told to us that then it was changed from a retaining wall to a very severe slope, which then there's the fence. That fence takes away a lot from us. We didn't do it to have pets that you couldn't get out of the yard, or, for security or just privacy. It's because Canaan just doesn't get that. And because of the type of fence that's in, that takes away things too. We don't get the view that we got of the sunset going over your neighborhood. Now we get a fence and the sun goes down behind that. We don't get the animals in the yard. We lost the ability to burn our brush, which is a major thing to us because we have a million trees there, and we're constantly cleaning things up. I mean, one cleanup of the woods is like 17 plus truckloads. And we do that in a weekend, and then we light it up. We can't do that anymore. We can, maybe take down half a tree, and then we have to burn it. And that goes upon the weather. I mean, we've lost a lot because of this part. A lot of it has been already communication. Some of it went to. I'm not coming after you for the medical bills or, the medications or the therapy appointments that we're now doing. Just want my windows clean and my ductwork clean so that we can, see outside and breathe nicely in the house. And I really, really want this to be over here.
Any suggestions?
Can I ask a question? What did y'all do with the dirt when it was a farm field?
And you mean when they,
When they would
plow?
disc and they'd plow and whatever, and the wind would blow, even when there was stuff planted out there, the dirt would blow, so how did you know?
Understandably, but they didn't do that for an entire summer straight. They did that, it took them, 3 days to plow those fields? And a lot of it wasn't even up by our house, it's across the little stream there. But good question, that is expected.
Anything, suggestions on how to move forward? Communication? Justin, what else do you foresee going on out there? For the remainder of the
Things that I know of right now are the silt fence needs to be removed and all the erosion control needs to be removed after the seed is established. So I would say more than likely that'll probably be next year, that'll need to get removed.
So anything more for this year?
Well, the rock issue that we need to deal with,
Also, it was determined that gates need to go on Arapahoe Lane. That would be nice to cut.
Oh, the barricade?
traffic.
The barricade up there, right?
there is some areas that are gonna need to get reseeded because of wash from the rain on the first seeding they did. I can't predict what'll happen in the future with, it's really dry out there now, so hopefully we get a nice slow fall rain would be ideal. Be ideal for growing grass. So.
To answer your question, there's 20 years worth of work out there.
Right.
Plus, are we gonna put up with this for the next 20 years?
Does that anything? Matt, help us out.
I guess, Justin, this is just a general question for you. If this was done through an actual contractor, is there typical, in your specifications, regulations for dust control and things like that, such that if this was typically, bid and spec type work, that you'd be going after the contractor for, adjacent property issues or anything like that? Just general construction project or civil site work?
There is some provisions for that, but a site like that with mass grading on it, it's to be expected that, if they applied water to that site, it would become unworkable, because it just becomes slime and mess. So you really, practically speaking, can't control dust to that extent, or for that type of project. There is some provisions for dust control when you're like on a gravel road, building a gravel road, and there's a lot of construction traffic back and forth on the gravel road, things of that nature.
Would you have a provision in there for, I wouldn't say that usually there's a general clause for damages for adjacent properties or anything like that? Is there anything that's typically standard in there? And I understand since it's the Army Corps, the question is, if it would have been a standard bid and spec project, that typically the contractor would assume that liability. If, since it was an Army Corps job, that the city has to pick up some of that liability. I'm looking for more like an industry standard on what would be.
I guess I can't say that I've experienced an issue with a request for, similar to this request for cleaning, I've never had an opportunity or never had a project where I've had a contractor, had to force a contractor to clean all the adjacent homes, the siding and windows. So
The only ones when I spoke with some of my colleagues talking about it, like you say, it's a rarity, but they've seen somebody tracking in asphalt, that things of carpets. Like you say, it's rare, but it's not without some precedent.
yeah, if there'd be an issue like that where you're tracking in asphalt, if there's clearly an issue where the contractor didn't follow the spec or was negligent, then it would be a claim between the property owner and the contractor directly, is actually how that falls.
The engineer just facilitated.
Right, a lot of times the city facilitates discussion or, things of that nature, but technically it's a claim between the property owner and the contractor. A lot of times the city gets involved in some of those discussions, but it would have to be, a negligent item by the contractor. And maybe Tom can buy in more than I can. I'm kind of veering down that line of legal issues.
Okay. Okay, so would the council be willing to go out and spend the day cleaning the outdoor windows, and the Herzog's take care of the ductwork. Because the ductwork would be, if you're, like we were just saying, if your air and whatnot is on, the ductwork wouldn't be affected as much, but you could make it a fun day.
We had to have our, okay, we had to have our air on the entire month of June because we couldn't open a window.
Right.
And that's why it's in ductwork. If we weren't running the air, we just had the windows open, then we'd just be dusting the house.
Right.
But that's not how it was. It was warm. And the air had to be on because the outside was difficult. And I understand this is a just out of, the blue kind of request and that, and it's not normally heard of. But this affects us so much. And we were told 1 month. And that was in June. And we're in September now, and we're still dealing with the dust and the hay from Saturday. It was a nice day. It would have been nice to be able to sit outside, but when it's blowing directly at your house from the field, we have lost a lot of time, a lot of summer, where you guys can do what you want, but we couldn't because of what was going on around us. And
But even moving forward, it's still gonna be an issue.
well, not really, because you guys don't have money for the next 3 years, right?
Well, I mean, the dust and the hay,
But it's not being moved, right? You don't have any plans to move it.
we moving earth out there next year. Right, Justin? Isn't that what we just said?
We could be moving earth out there right now,
Right.
if we
So-
decided not to.
We don't have any money left in the budget.
Yeah, I didn't think
I
there
know,
was
but-
any money for that.
There's a gravel road that'll be out there until it's paved. Dust created from that, from the
Right.
wind.
Yeah, shouldn't be any traffic on that gravel road, should there?
No, even a dry gravel road, you can produce a fair amount of dust, from my experience, because we just had it this weekend at the orchard, and it was terrible.
But we got it to that barricade, so nobody should be.
Yeah, but nobody's driving on it,
There was
so.
nobody driving on where we were on Saturday either, out there, but when it's dry, and then you want to wind, and just gonna whip it up, I mean, truly, we just went and bought a ton of something, I have no idea what
Well,
it is.
see, this is why I think you guys need more people in on this project, because Jill knew something that we all didn't know. The way that it's been going about, where just nobody knows what's going on.
I think at this point, I am going to jump in. I'm going to say, there's no resolution on the table right now. You guys have lofted some heavy allegations about, what the city did not do that maybe they should have done. And I think it's something that should be taken under advisement. I should talk to Justin, we should review what may have been done, but there's nothing on the table right now, no action to take. And I understand that this maybe has been an ongoing issue and I'm newer to the community. But I think, as the city keeps making concessions toward the situation, it's just going to continue to progress, and I think it's a matter that we just need to take a look at and see what exactly is the overall situation that
Do
we're
you
facing.
consider the concession the fence? Is that one of your concessions? Because honestly, the fence was caused by lack of communication and the way
Yes, I do.
things turned out.
You,
It wasn't Justin going into this that my child had issues with that, and if you build a fence or a retaining wall at our property line, there needs to be a fence there. You know, I mean, he was aware that there would be a danger, you know.
I think you use words like caused by, use words like, we're getting down to a point now where you're making some allegations here, and the city needs to take a chance to review. Now, certainly the council can take action without such a review, but I would just advise that we take this under advisement, we look at the overall situation as this gentleman out here spoke to. You know, potentially there's legal implications here, and if it's a project that's going to go on for many years, it would be more fruitful for you guys and for the city of Montrose to figure out if there is a better way to resolve this than, you know, as you said, you don't want to keep everything come to council meetings.
Yeah.
And that's the advice that I would give the council at this time. But certainly you guys can take what action is deemed necessary.
Well, and that's great, but the thing is I can get a hold of them, okay? I need Sean and Justin. I need Sean, when the fence went up in the backyard, you should have been the one to come and talk to us, and you weren't.
I was there.
You were there about the property line, okay? But the day the fence was to be built, you were not you weren't around that day. And there were questions, you know, and I've been told that you've asked Michelle to talk to me about the fence, and we would have such a better communication if I could just talk to you and ask you a question, instead of asking Michelle or Jason or Dan something and then they have to go back and talk to you about it. Communication would be so appreciated.
You had no issue getting a hold of me on Saturday.
You're right.
You
You
never
did
had an
text
issue of me not answering the phone. So I've also said, you know where my office is, I'm there quite often. You've got my phone number.
But when the fence was approved, you never came out to even talk to us about the fence. And then it should
Whose
have been.
property is the fence on?
It is on the property line.
It is on the property line, or is it in the city property?
Well, okay, so the north side is on city.
Okay.
The west side is on the property line.
That's where we agreed upon that.
Okay. I'm just asking for clarification, you know, because when you're talking the fence, you're using the broad one about it being built, you know, I want to know which one are you referring to, the one that was, you know, on the north side that's in the city property, because, I mean, that's in the city property. I mean, my neighbors, when they built their fence on their property, they didn't come talk to me, hey, I'm building a fence on my property.
We did have a discussion, because Jim and I talked about whether the new gate was going to be for 72 feet and the 32 feet.
Yeah, but
We had
that's
that
when we
discussion.
that's when we called you out.
Correct.
Yeah,
The fence wasn't even put in yet.
no. I'm trying to say it would have been nice if you would have talked to us before that. You know, I don't need to keep, I hate calling you guys. I really do. I was mad Saturday, and yeah, I was mad. But it destroys an entire day.
I guess I'm quite uncertain what more we could have discussed on fence placement than what we discussed that day. We were all in agreement where it was going, what the spacings were, where the curve of the road went. I showed you guys everything.
Was there, okay. Would it be, okay, if you guys, the two of you, along with Jill and I, since we're personnel, Kevin does too, but I don't know if he would want to be involved in that. Along with Justin and Sean, just get together and figure this out.
You know, that would be great.
Is that okay? Is that okay with the rest of the council?
Sure.
You guys good?
I think it should be more of a council issue.
I guess, but the council's not talking. I mean, I've asked multiple times and we're getting nowhere.
That doesn't mean.
So,
I think if there's any financial interest,
then we would absolutely come back to
then it
that.
would have to come back to council.
Absolutely,
But
absolutely.
as far as a discussion such as this goes,
Yes.
right, communication concerns, fence concerns, everything else has been discussed.
We would absolutely come back to council. But just, I mean, you guys are okay with that? I mean,
Knowing that if there's any financial obligations or anything of that nature, would you be more comfortable? Or maybe you want to be a part of it?
yeah, I mean, if you want.
I don't have to be a part of it.
I mean, yeah, it doesn't matter, I just think that, I feel like so much goes to the personnel committee, so it's just two people, and even though you're not making a decision, that, you know, unless we go and look for the information, we're not getting it. So I think.
Personnel committee,
The minutes are right here. And I
Yeah.
think we've been here for 45 minutes at least with the Herzogs going, does anybody have any
That
suggestions?
doesn't, no, that doesn't mean that I don't have anything to say,
Right, right. Right. Well, if
but.
you're suggesting to pay for everything.
No, I did
Or
not
get-
say,
to
I
get-
did not
to
say
get
that.
a quote,
I-
to get a
okay,
quote.
Let's get some estimates.
But that's not-
Another thing though too, when you guys are having your side things, you really need to be talking into your microphones so the
That's
rest of
what
us
I was
have knowledge on what you're discussing. So like when you were talking with Michelle, and Michelle's been talking with Jill, you know, it'd be nice if the rest of us knew what was going on.
I just said what was going on. I said, Jill, do you feel that this would be work? Okay, you guys.
But-
are you
but,
okay?
yeah, but
Okay,
we-
well, let's have the discussion. Go ahead, guys.
But these conversations are happening first and then being said.
I have to leave. I have medical stuff I need to take care of. So, thanks.
Thank you.
Is there any discussion on how to move forward?
Lloyd, Ben, Melissa,
What about that plan you just said?
that's,
I just said that, but
it's not,
it's not agreeable. Right.
so we need to come up with another solution.
I think it was agreed upon, I just like, who needs, who should be there is what was not agreed upon.
We can.
Right, so let's
Right.
make a
So next
suggestion.
one, what should we do?
I honestly think it should be all of us, but.
And just, I mean, just, I don't care. It don't matter.
I recommend that you follow the city attorney's recommendation.
And that was, can you repeat that?
Take it under advisement.
And then what? Wait for them next month to come back? I mean, I'm listening to what they're saying. We're taking under advisement that this is what they want, but we have to have some kind of a solution or an answer to something. Or they're gonna be back next month, or tomorrow, what do you guys think?
Correct, but you have to, then you have to make a solution that is the only solution. And in order to do that, I need to look into this because I need to see if there's a way that we can make a solution and reach a solution that resolves, that this just doesn't keep coming up. This, if you guys are saying this is a project that's gonna be going on for years, and they don't seem to have any intention of moving away from that property, then this is gonna be an issue that you're just gonna keep dealing with in piecemeal, and it needs to be something probably more absolute. So it's something I would like to be able to take a look at, for the benefit of the city, to see if there's a way that we can do that. I don't know if there is, but I think you're right, that it keeps spinning the wheels, and I'm newer to this city, I'm newer to this community, I'm aware that this has been an ongoing issue, and I think we should try and find a way to resolve it more concretely than simply every time they come in, we just deal with that next issue. There needs to be a more absolute solution.
Right.
So you'll look into that.
I'll take a look at it, I'll see if there's a way that we can do it legally, to find some settlement, some way to say this, okay, we have resolved the concerns of the Herzog with regards to the park. It's not an issue that we need to, you know.
Address it.
Well, every single meeting, yeah, yeah.
This isn't gonna end.
You just have to make
This is
sure.
I've been telling the council for weeks that it's not gonna change.
And you need, like Ben said, you need to be careful because setting precedents, we have a lot of projects coming up. We have had highway construction on County Road 12. We didn't clean anybody's houses. We've had highway construction on US Highway 12, we didn't clean anybody's houses. We're going to be doing construction on Highway 25, we're doing Garfield, Montrose Meadows. We need to be careful. I can see, I mean, I understand, but there's always dust in any project. I'm sure there was dust when that construction was going on over there, when the houses were being built. So we just have to be careful. It's been said that you need to be careful about setting a precedence, because it can really open the doors. So I think you, like Tom said, let him look into
I got a
it.
question.
I was just gonna make a comment. There's dust, even if there isn't a construction project.
Yes.
Right.
That's what
So
Phil-
just for the record, I did look up on the Apple app for the satellite view of the property, and on there, it shows the north side of the property and crops.
Yeah, he's
I grew up on a farm, it's dusty. I mean, I understand where they're coming from, I know it, but having dirt around you is something that happens.
Matt Russell, 128 Pheasant Ridge Drive. I guess my recommendation to the council would simply be, more or less you have to treat this like any other construction project. You guys are gonna have to make a meeting with, with Sean, with Justin, with your attorney, and basically saying what is a reasonable expectation for a construction project. I think the precedents get set a lot differently simply because it's not a bid spec project. Whereas if you're having a third-party contractor come in, they are assuming a lot of that liability because they're the ones physically doing the work, versus this one, which was done through Army Corps, which is a little bit more of, the city's gonna end up taking some of that liability. But I would just think that whether or not it's a council meeting or a personnel meeting or something, that the city just across the board needs to know exactly where it stands and what would be considered a reasonable expectation. And then once that line is drawn, that's where the line is. Whatever gets happened up once, and whatever doesn't. I mean, you can't cover accident, it's just not gonna happen. But what would be the reasonable expectation?
Thank you.
So I'm just going to provide clarification, because clearly there was discussion about what I asked Michelle, while Matt and Justin were having a conversation. And I had specifically asked her, because I don't want there to be anybody thinking that I'm trying to keep secrets, because I am not, and that is not who I am. So to provide clarification, I had suggested to Michelle, I said, what if we try to come to a compromise and see if council would be willing to come in and clean their windows if they would do their duct cleaning? That was my specific question to Michelle, and Michelle said, I thought the same thing, and then she proposed it to the Mirzags. So, clarification, thank you. That's what it was. If anybody has any questions surrounding it, I'd be happy to answer them.
Or any suggestions would be greatly appreciated as well.
Could I just add? Yeah, I think that your offer to clean the windows was a goodwill offer, and I think there's two things going on there. Their discomfort with everything that's happened, personally. There isn't really anything, you can't go back and fix their experience, and I think that's why you're having a harder time. What can we actually do about it? Because you can't go back and change it. I thought that was very nice of you to make a goodwill offer for that. At the same time, the appeasement issue that could be going on for, a decade, or I don't remember how long the project is. How do you weigh the goodwill option of being good neighbors and say, we understand this had unintended consequences for your lives when we started the project. It wasn't to impact you in this way. How can we say as a community, not to make it a big deal, I'm not suggesting you do that, but, just the undercurrent like you did. We're sorry that it impacted you in this way, but at the same time not opening the appeasement door, and I think that's what the council has to weigh those two things. So I just appreciated that you reached out in that way.
So if we have the attorney look into
A possible solution?
our possible solutions and next step, do you want him to bring it back to council next month? Before that?
How long do you think it will take for you to come up with general knowledge surrounding the situation and a potential solution.
We could probably have an opinion to the council within, I could write an opinion together within like a week, depending on what I find, as best option solutions. It depends then how, and obviously it would have, depending on what I find, if they maybe would have to be on board with it, we would have to go through that process with the Herzogs. But it's something I could have prepared by next council meeting, no problem.
I feel like given the situation, it would be more appropriate to have a special meeting. Whether it be the week before council, an hour before the regular council meeting, or maybe just the Herzog that has to come. Obviously, anybody can attend, but I feel like generally speaking, in special meetings, people tend to talk more than in regular meetings.
And I think if we could put a time limit on it, I think we'll have to move forward and progress.
Then put it at 6 o'clock next month.
Are you doing meeting?
Well, I think if we have.
Well,
some
recommend
special.
Only if.
But that wasn't going to be on the, wasn't going to be on Monday night, that was going to be moved to there.
We considered moving it to their night, so then it wouldn't impede. Yeah.
Are we okay with doing that, having it at 6 o'clock?
Aye.
I'm okay. At 6 o'clock before the next council meeting.
Yes.
Melissa?
Okay, anything else?
Yes. Interview dates and times.
I had that under upcoming
That's under
meetings,
upcoming
Sean.
Go ahead.
Interview dates, next Monday, the 18th. Sean will be calling for the 4 interviews, or the 4 possible candidates for city clerk treasurer position. And he will be setting up times. Does the 18th work for all of you, starting at 3 o'clock, giving at least an hour for each one? With 4 of next Monday. Next February, 1 week from today.
Starting at 3 o'clock.
Correct. Yeah. That works for us? Okay. Ben,
I'll check.
can you let Sean know by tomorrow?
Try to, yeah.
We're hoping to reach out to the,
He's gonna start making phone calls to set things up.
so they can make plans.
If it doesn't work out, Sean, you wanna send out an email?
Backup date.
What's the backup date? Tuesday, the 19th.
We got to be done by
6:30?
right?
We'll be on the sewer ponds that day, so.
That's what, okay.
It wouldn't be in here.
Yeah, I'll check. I'll let you know first thing in the morning, Sean. If not tonight yet, just drop me an email.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We got our Monday.
Monday works better.
Monday.
Okay. The other meetings that are coming up then are Highway Patrol Committee and Planning and Zoning, next Wednesday, starting at 5.
Those are the other meetings and it's
I'm sorry. Highway 12 Committee is at City Hall at 5 o'clock, following Planning and Zoning the same day at 7 o'clock here at the Community Center. I said it, right? And then the acknowledgements, Kevin beat us to it, but we did want to acknowledge the firemen that are out faithfully every year, standing and representing 9/11. We do appreciate everything that you guys do. And
So just to be clear, the special meeting is 6 PM on October 9th.
or?
Yes.
Hour before the council meeting?
Yes. Columbus Day.
We were taking this.
Provided that it works, provided the attorney has the appropriate information and the Herzogs are available.
Tentative.
Yeah. Can we add to the acknowledgements, and I don't know if you just didn't want it on there, Kevin, Jeff Daniels, years of service on the fire.
They're both on there. We just redid it.
He's just not on the activity report, his will be on the next activity report.
It's not, no. Oh, man.
Just teach you to it, Jill.
You could have been on the call.
We're good then, sorry.
I have a couple more. I just want to acknowledge Montrose Day Committee and all the volunteers and the firemen again for all the work that they did to put that on. As we discussed yesterday, it's a lot of work for the few people that help them out. So, and then Sean and Wendy for helping out so much with stuff that has been going on since the baby has left. And Sean especially for putting together all the packets and stuff that we went through today. Anybody else?
I just have the stuff that's already in there, Jeff Daniels, Scott Johnson, the Dollar General store who facilitated us getting some donations for our ring toss. I think that's the only one.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
I will make a motion to adjourn.